My personal concern is that if the United States really gets bogged down in its war against Iran, no one knows what will happen to the United States in the coming years or coming decades. Because you never know how this situation may evolve eventually, whether it will get out of control, whether it will escalate from conventional war to nuclear war, for example, or whether, ironically, it will force Iran to really develop a nuclear weapon. And what will be the consequence for Israel and Iran to both have nuclear weapons? China highly respects Iran as a sovereign nation with territorial integrity, and the two countries engage with each other on equal terms. And China does not recognize the extraterritoriality of any other country's one-sided and self-imposed sanctions against another country or against China. Therefore, when China deals with Iran, we deal with Iran in all spheres of relations, including energy cooperation. And I don't think this is a problem. And if a third country cries foul, the problem is really with itself, with its attempted extraterritoriality of its unilaterally imposed sanctions. And I think once this Israel-initiated war against Iran started, the Chinese government's position is very clear. Israel is in violation of a self-imposed war against a member of the United Nations, against its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and China really deplores Israel's military attack on nuclear facilities inside Iran and considered it as a very serious offense against world peace and security. It is of high hypocrisy for a country like Israel, which violated international convention in possessing nuclear weapon to start with, and now it's accusing another country, Iran, for attempting to acquire nuclear weapons. I don't think there are any higher level of double standard and hypocrisy for Israel to accuse another country of trying to possess nuclear weapons. I think the Middle East will be much better off if Israel disarms itself with nuclear weapons and no other country will want to possess nuclear weapons. That will probably create a better level playground for all the countries involved in the Middle East. For Israel to possess nuclear weapons and to constantly threaten other countries with nuclear attack is really a very serious problem. And I think international community really need to join together to put an end to such blatant violation of peace and security, not only in the Middle East, but in the world at large. Well, as a general point, China is always worried if a war breaks out. And this time, this war is a complete surprise attack launched by Israel against a sovereign and independent country like Iran. And the fact that this surprise attack took place when the United States and Iran are still engaged in discussions about how to end this nuclear problem is particularly surprising. It's, in my best judgment, it's like the Japanese surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in the Second World War. And I think Israel has also committed all the crimes in massively killing the government officials, military officials of Iran. And no country should tolerate any other country like Israel to commit such massive amount of assassinations before a formal declaration of war against Iran, for example. So I think the Chinese president is legitimately worried about the scale of the attack, the potential loss of life, as well as the potential escalation of the situation, because you never know how this situation may evolve eventually, whether it will get out of control, whether it will escalate from conventional war to nuclear war, for example, or whether, ironically, it will force Iran to really develop a nuclear weapon. And what will be the consequence for Israel and Iran to both have nuclear weapons? Do they really want to use nuclear weapons against each other? What will be the consequence for peace and security in the Middle East and in the world at large? Therefore, it is time to call on Prime Minister Netanyahu, stop all the craziness, he probably wants to save his political skin rather than really serving the fundamental interest of the people in Israel to launch such unilateral, self-imposed surprise attack on a big country, a great country like Iran. And the United States really need to pull all their levers to force Israel to stop this war against Iran, and also to stop Israel from misusing the United States. China always benefits by protecting peace and stability anywhere in the world. And China will feel very much at a loss if peace and stability and prosperity anywhere in the world will be damaged by especially unilaterally imposed war of one country against the other country. Therefore, such benefit, if any, that China will enjoy is not for China's own benefit, it is for peace and stability and the well-being of mankind. This is exactly the confusion that President Trump is creating deliberately or unintentionally. I don't think assassination of a head of state or head of government or political leaders or military leaders of another country is the right thing to do in the world of today. I think countries need to have the minimum decency and the protocol in dealing with another country. Assassination is the bad thing, and assassination may serve as a boomerang, eventually may come back to hurt yourself and haunt you. Therefore, engaging in assassination, especially against head of state or leader of another religious faith, for example, or against the major political and military leaders of another sovereign country, is the wrong thing to do, especially at a time when Israel has self-imposed this undeclared war in a surprise attack against Iran. This is the worst time for the head of the state of the United States to imply that assassination may be involved in killing the leader of Iran. I think China has always the long perspective and historical perspective to look at any contemporary events like what had happened in Syria and what is happening in Iran. We are not confused by the events on a day-to-day basis. We look at the situation in 10 years, in 100 years, sometimes 500 years, if not even longer. Therefore, in the historical perspective, if you really look at the situation in the long-haul perspective, war is bad. For Israel to impose an undeclared war on Iran is an aggression. And whatever Iran is doing is justified because they are defending their own sovereignty and territorial integrity. They are fighting back against aggressors. Therefore, I think all of us need to work on with Israel to stop the war as quickly as possible and come up with peaceful ways to negotiate with Iran. And I personally will completely support the ending of whatever nuclear weapon program, if any, by Iran. And I do hope Israel will also dispossess nuclear weapons and Middle East will become a nuclear-free zone. That will be in the best interest of all the countries in that particular part of the world.